Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You are watching the Paris Fintech Forum Community video interview series. I'm Elliott Gotkine, and today I'm joined by the Chief Processing and Financial Institutions Officer of Worldline, Madalena Cascais Tomé. Great to have you with us.
Thank you, Elliott. Thank you. It's great to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
Lovely. Okay, so before we get cracking, let's learn a little bit more about Worldline. So, Madalena, you're a publicly traded payments processor, but tell us a bit more about the business and perhaps what sets you apart from others in the space.
So Worldline is, in fact, one of the reference payment processors and champions in Europe. And what makes Worldline unique is, on one hand, how comprehensive it is across the payments value chain. So we provide solutions in payments, not only the infrastructures, the core infrastructures, like the core issuing, account payments, and clearing and settlement platforms, but also very, very comprehensively all the payment touch points from ATMs, point of sales, in-store and e-commerce solutions, but also the digital solutions that you can have on your mobile phone. Other than that, we are also uniquely comprehensive across Europe and also in Asia. We are present in more than 250 countries. And if you look at it, 1 in every 5 cards in Europe is processed by Worldline. So I think that also stands for the magnitudes and the presence that we have and how systemic and important we are in driving European payments.
Right. And I mean, I think 2025 wasn't the easiest of years for Worldline. There were, allegations of fraud. There were leadership changes. In fact, you kind of came into the company, just around about half a year ago. You and the team have been trying to turn things around and restore trust, I think you've been saying, in the business. You've also been selling off some businesses, for example, to refocus on your core payment activities. How is that turnaround plan going?
The results are starting to show, and I think that's a very positive and encouraging sign. Actually, I joined 5 months ago, and our leadership team, as you mentioned, is recently new. So Pierre-Antoine, our CEO, joined roughly a year ago, exactly on the perspective and with the core vision and strategy of transforming the company and ensuring its future vision going forward as a trusted partner in payments. As you mentioned, one of the priorities was exactly to ensure that we would work and increase the robustness across the different pillars of Worldline, being operational, being the risk profile of some of our clients, being including our capital structure and our finance structure, which we have done and are doing. We also recently published results, and we already see a positive trend in terms of what is the business perspectives going forward, but also in the way that we are steering the business, making sure that we are delivering on the guidance that we are communicating to the market. More importantly, what is very promising is, and I've been meeting dozens of clients over the past weeks and months at Worldline, is reassuring to understand the trusted relationships that we have with our clients, but more importantly, the role to play that we have in the current setting of payments that are becoming increasingly important in the day-to-day lives of the financial institutions and the merchants that we serve, but also in Europe, increasingly strategic. And for that, players such as Worldline and European champion grounded in our European unique talent pool, but also grounded in our capabilities, in our technology, in your European sovereign clouds and infrastructures, is absolutely critical to drive and continue to drive European payments forward.
Right. And as you say, I mean, the turnaround is beginning to show in the results. I mean, there's still been, quite a bit of a decline, in terms of where the share price of Worldline is. I think it's valued at a little bit under 400 million euros. So that, of course, could change by the time this is broadcast. But what does that say about investors' growth expectations for the company? And how does that compare with your capacity to meet those expectations?
So we operate in an industry that is growing, and not only in terms of volume, and although we have progressed over the recent years from a double-digit growth to a more single-digit growth, in the sense that the digitization effect is also now more stabilizing, but it's also a technology that is an industry that is transforming very quickly and rapidly with new technology advancements, with new consumer habits, even with new regulation. So it's an industry with promising outlook. it's a fact that we have faced headwinds, and some of the results that the results that we currently have are still being affected by loss of past contracts that have an effect right now. And as you know, in payments, some of these trends take time to resume. Namely, when we acquire and onboard new clients, it's something that takes time. But also, as I mentioned, there are already proof points of renewal of clients, onboarding new clients, and more importantly, for instance, the stabilization that we had on churn in some of the regions, and the stabilization and increasing in customer satisfaction that we are also witnessing, and to that, the fact also that we continue not only to transform our company to be able to make sure that we step up in terms of serving our clients with more agile solutions, but also making sure that we continue to invest in innovation and in new technologies. And for instance, we are pioneering currently in agentic payments in Europe.
And in terms of growth, just briefly, if you could, where is most growth going to come from? Is it going to be new technologies? Is it going to be new solutions? Is it going to be new geographies? Where do you see most of the growth coming from?
It will be mostly increasing our presence in some of our core markets, increasing the relationship that we have with our current clients, but also with other clients in those respective countries. We are focusing in Europe, in our core markets, but also the new technological and regulatory advancements. For instance, we are very active in enhancing some of the European solutions, including Vero. Also, we'll be able to support our clients in the digital euro and the new regulatory advancements going forward, and more also helping our clients in navigating the increasing complexity in payments, where at the same time you need to be able to manage card payments, account payments, virtual assets, and making sure that all of this comes together in a very seamless and secure user experience in the different touch points. And that's exactly where we have a differentiating role to play.
Okay, so we've heard about Worldline. Let's now learn more about Madalena. So, Madalena, you've been at Worldline for, round about half a year, joining at what perhaps wasn't the easiest time for the company. Is it fair to say that you as a person, Madalena, that Madalena likes a challenge?
For sure. I very much go for a striving and significant challenge, but most importantly, one where I believe I can have an impact, and for sure being part of this transformation journey and being able also to have an impact in Europe at scale in driving European payments. It's what drives me, and it's for sure what made me take this significant challenge.
And you're a bit of a mathematician as well. Was finance always going to be the logical career choice for you, or was there something more maths specific on the cards? I think also you were at one point wanted to be a ballerina, so perhaps
Yes.
Finance wasn't always your destiny.
No, it was not. And especially in mathematics, the field of expertise and appliance use cases is significant, not only just finance. That's exactly where I started. I started as a consultant to understand where I could have more impact. And at the time, very much experimenting across artificial intelligence. It was the early days of artificial intelligence where we were trying to bring that to businesses. And I had the opportunity of applying artificial intelligence across different sectors, not only just finance. For instance, in the telecom sector, where I also extensively work on. And what I found as my passion was exactly innovation, transformation, and how special we can bring technology in having an impact into day-to-day lives of people. That's actually what drives me, and for that, payment is the right place to be.
Okay, but you do have a life outside of payments, one assumes. So what can Madalena be found doing when she's not working on payments or on Worldline?
So I'm a mother of 3, actually. And that's already a handful, and that's for sure my priority, especially when I'm not working. I also like to read a lot, although in many cases I'm reading, especially during the year, things related with my area of work and expertise. I'm traveling. That's also due to my current role, and actually it's a very interesting part of what we do, and the pan-European setting that we have, and actually global setting that we have at Worldline, being able to work across different cultures, where for sure payments are still very much entrenched in the reality of these different communities. And for another fact, I also practice yoga, and sometimes, just to be upside down, it's the best way to take perspective, and in many cases have different ideas to tackle challenging problems.
Yes, I've done yoga a few times, but I'm just too inflexible. I just end up injuring myself. Anyway, all right, so Madalena, a key part of this interview is to get your take on the future of finance. But first, we are going to take a very quick break, after which we're going to continue our conversation with the Chief Processing and Financial Institutions Officer of Worldline, Madalena Cascais Tomé. Welcome back, and don't forget, if you're not already a full member of our community, everything you need to join can be found at www.parisfintechforum.com. Okay, so now, Madalena, let's talk about the future of finance. So you've said, I think, payments are the lifeblood of the economy, and that for the first time, they are now central to Europe's political and strategic agenda, especially in terms of payment sovereignty. How big a challenge is this for Europe?
It's very significant. And we can look at it, half empty or half full. The fact is that Europe is one of the most advanced spaces in payments. If you look at the level of digitization, the number of infrastructures that we have, the fact that we are able to do instant payments at scale across Europe, the level of security, resilience, and even privacy that you have around payments in Europe is actually unique in the global landscape. But having said that, we are very still much reliant on non-European technology, being the largest brands and payment networks, but also being the terminals and even some of our infrastructures and data centers and data and cloud capabilities. So in order to make sure that we have in fact sovereignty, all of the value chain is something that needs to be tackled, and for that, of course, the fact that we need to have strong European champions like Worldline is of the utmost important. For the first time, this is in the political agenda. So I think that is also, especially the initiatives like Vero or of the digital euro, there is a momentum that is unique, and I'm sure we'll be able to push this agenda and have a significant impact on the way and in the way that payments in Europe will evolve, also on that dimension.
Right, but I mean, Europe does seem to be taking its time. It often kind of has to go through many committees, get lots of different countries to agree to all sorts of different things, different regulators. So how achievable is payment sovereignty? And I suppose that would also mean that if Europe is championing European companies like Worldline, that's going to mean more collaboration, perhaps some kind of, I don't necessarily know mergers or acquisitions, but certainly perhaps some kind of common approach from Europe, which involves the likes of Worldline and perhaps others in the space.
You touched on a very important point, which is exactly collaboration, alignment, and making sure that across the different stakeholders in payments, we have a unique vision for what should be our European payment industrial policy going forward. And it needs to come at the different levels, the political, institutional levels, in the Commission, for instance, making sure that there is a focus across the different areas, the different DGs on what should payments look like, because in fact, payments are not only just on on the financial sector. They are also related with digital services. They're also related with connectivity, for instance. And then how can this unified and unique vision, how can we make sure that we can bring all the stakeholders together? Also making sure that there is an open collaboration between the private sector and the public sector, between the different member states and the different national initiatives that exist. We already see, once again, a momentum taking shape there. I think this common concern and vision and purpose around sovereignty is bringing us all together, and that is for sure the way to move forward, to make sure that, for instance, we can have interoperability between the different means of payment across Europe, interoperability between the digital euro and the existing solutions, and that we can create the cooperation that it requires to make sure that together we can strive towards this objective.
So looking to the future, how do you see the payments landscape in 5 years, in 10 years? How do you expect that to be? Would it be kind of one uniform kind of, payment infrastructure, perhaps similar to what you have in India, maybe, with different private companies kind of plugging into that? How do you see it evolving in Europe?
What I've witnessed over the past years, and I think that would be my hypothesis also going forward, is that we continue to have a proliferation of several infrastructures, including cards, rails, account payments, and now also the digital euro and the virtual assets more broadly. The ones that will succeed will be the ones that are able to manage these different infrastructures, these different alternatives, also with an integrated experience across the payment touch points, being the digital app that you have on your consumer side, but also on the e-commerce, the omni-channel capabilities of bringing together your in-store and your e-commerce experience. And the ones that will succeed will be the ones that can orchestrate this at scale, but also making sure that they can also enhance specific national use cases. And for that, I think that we are, of course, uniquely positioned. But I think complexity and diversity will be increasingly there, but also the way that we can integrate that diversity and leverage the best technology, the best infrastructures to the specific use cases, and the way that we are also able to automate and have frictionless and seamless payment experiences very much grounded on security and anti-fraud elements will also be the way going forward.
Okay, and I mean, you mentioned the digital euro a couple of times, and of course, the private side of whether it's euros or dollars or whatever seems to have taken off a lot faster than the kind of state-backed digital money. So we've seen stable coins indeed being hailed by many as the next big thing, especially for international payments. And yet Europe is still a tiddler in terms of digital euro versus digital dollars. Has Europe left it too late, or is this a kind of hare and tortoise situation where the tortoise is ultimately going to prevail, or at least finish at the same time as the hare?
Yeah. I think that, we saw in other dimensions, some of the private initiatives took off sooner in the US. That also, and we had several diagnoses and reflections on the way that we regulate in Europe, and if the balance between regulation and innovation is there. Or, on the other hand, if, like others, for instance, in the States, we witness that innovation typically takes space, and then you have regulation that follows it and tries to steer it. So I think that's part of the issue. Also, I think here in Europe we are taking an unprecedented, I would say, roadmap, which is to introduce a central bank digital currency with the digital euro, which was also not the way in the United States and in many of the other countries and regions. I think here the challenge will be how will this balance play to make sure that we can have also space and room for private initiatives, namely in the stablecoin space. We already see some initiatives taking shape and taking form. We are also actually working with some of these initiatives, and I think let's see how they evolve. Once again, here the key turning point would be what could be the use cases that we can unleash with these initiatives, and also also how can we make sure that there is a cooperation and a level playing field between private and public initiatives, and between European initiatives and non-European initiatives that actually operate in Europe.
Okay, so look, artificial intelligence, of course, is never far from our minds. And recently we've seen tech companies of all sorts in all sorts of spaces in 2026, including fintech, being pummeled for fears that the likes of OpenAI or Anthropic are going to eat their fintech lunch. Are these fears overblown? And if so, in what way?
If you look at artificial intelligence, it is a scale and large purpose technology that is, changing the way that we work and disrupting industries across. Like we had electricity, like we had internet, and I think, as always, we'll see an adjustment in the market that will take shape. The question is more, companies that will take AI will succeed. Versus companies that will not take AI. It's inevitable, and it's for sure part of what you need to make sure that you evolve in this new landscape, either in terms of productivity, that is I think would say the basic level, but also how can AI, and especially Gen AI, enable new use cases and disruption across the different sectors and across the different industries. In payments, for instance, AI has been used already for several years in some areas, like for instance anti-fraud, where the predictive AI models have been at the core of many of the solutions that exist, including Worldline solutions. But also you see that AIs and special agentic AI is taking shape also in the way that we have our consumer habits and can shape or reshape our day-to-day lives, as enhancing some of our habits and automate some of our habits. Even there, and thinking payments, it's not just a technology game, it's also a trust game. So how can we make sure that we can enable this technology and enable these new agentic payments with a very core strong elements around what is the trusted credential and who is the player, and where do I rely as a consumer? My trusted elements will be key.
And I mean, you recently sold off your North American and Indian operations. Is being big and successful in Europe, and I know you're in many other countries as well, but with Europe as your core, is that enough for fintechs based in Europe, or does, the big prize always mean the US as well?
I think that Europe is a very specific market in payments, and payment is a scale sector. So what we have been doing is to make sure that we focus on our core mission and our core purpose, which is to be the trusted partner in payments in Europe, and that means that we have divested in areas that were not payments, or where, not being Europe, we are not sizable or scalable enough to be a relevant player. Having said that, in what entails in enhancing cross-border payments at a global scale, that is an area that is core of our strategy, and for that we don't need to be physically present, in the sense that our core activity is more to provide the platforms and the solutions in the infrastructure, even if we are not operating directly in the market serving merchants or serving consumers. We do it through our partners, and we do it through our clients.
Okay, Madalena, so it's time now for our round of rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, so I've got 90 seconds on my countdown clock, just looking for one-word answers, and we're going to get through as many of these questions as we possibly can until the alarm on my phone goes off. So without further ado, I'm going to start the clock, and away we go. So what fintech segment, in your opinion, has the biggest potential over the next 5 years?
Fintech serving B2B clients.
What is the biggest pain point in your everyday financial life that you would like to see resolved?
Recurring payments.
Are bank bosses ready for the AI revolution?
Some.
Are customers ready?
Some also.
Do you think that regulators in Europe and in the US have kept pace with all the new possibilities and behaviors that we're seeing in the financial industry?
Catching up.
Have you personally ever invested in crypto?
Yes.
Are physical points of sales part of the future of finance?
For sure, omnichannel.
Are bank branches part of the future of finance?
Yes.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where 10 is the most likely, 1 is the least likely, how likely is it that in the next 10 years, one of the neobanks will be as profitable as a top-tier legacy bank? Out of 10.
9.
That central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, will become a mainstream reality in America or Europe?
3.
That you will be able to open a crypto account at a top-tier bank?
5.
That SWIFT will still be the main tool for transferring money around the world?
4.
That a new rival will emerge to challenge Visa or MasterCard?
5.
5. All right. We got through almost all of them. So I'm afraid our time is up for the round of rapid fire questions and also for our conversation. So I really just want to thank you, Madalena Cascais Tomé, the Chief Processing and Financial Institutions Officer of Worldline, for joining me today. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It was my pleasure.
And for everyone watching, we will be back again next time with another big name from the world of finance and technology. We do hope you'll be able to join us again then. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to the Paris Fintech Forum YouTube channel and to follow us on X at Paris Fin Forum. That's all for now. See you next time. Bye-bye.